After a year hiatus from Uncharted's exotic locations, crazy action set pieces, and characters who seem to have equipped for every situation, Naughty Dog decided to cut that break short by pumping out yet another new Uncharted game, The Lost Legacy. And you want to know what the most surprising thing about all this is? The Lost Legacy is far better than it has any right to be. The game actually began life as a series of half-baked ideas, including Uncharted 5. But seeing as how Naughty Dog is super busy with The Last of Us 2 right now, the studio decided on something a bit smaller that it could pump out within a year or so. Thus, the idea of a standalone expansion was born.
Just for my peace of mind, alright?
However, this dog has learned some new tricks since the release of A Thief's End, enough that The Lost Legacy is able to stand out in its own unique way. Now, Naughty Dog have always set the benchmark when it comes to visuals and the like, so it goes without saying that The Lost Legacy is an absolute looker. Not that it should surprise anyone.
It's our old friends, Parashurama and Ganesh.
When your starting point is the Uncharted 4 game engine, you'd have to be a complete moron to make an ugly game. Luckily, Naughty Dog have proven themselves over the years to be far from morons. Everything is an absolute feast for the eyes, not to mention how it all runs smoother than Ryan Gosling picking up women at a bar. But there are enough minor tweaks that give The Lost Legacy that extra little bit of polish compared to A Thief's End. Credit to Naughty Dog though, the attention to detail is as incredible as anything they've ever put out before, right down to the sweaty hair being stuck on each character's neck. It is probably worth mentioning that they didn't do the lazy thing of reusing assets from A Thief's End in order to save time. No, what they did was create almost everything from scratch. Within a year as well. That's pretty impressive. So The Lost Legacy is beautiful enough to be hung and shown off in a museum. But what about the gameplay? Well, that's a slightly different story.
But on the plus side... Oh, there's a plus on?
If you've played any of the previous Uncharted's, then you will be pleased, or upset depending on your outlook, to know that The Lost Legacy plays exactly like every single other game in the series.
Oh, what the hell? That's not fair.
You run around, you climb some unrealistically difficult mountain ranges, you solve puzzles, the melee system is still there, you work your way through some crazy action set pieces. Not to mention, you'll probably kill enough people to make Genghis Khan envious. So, not really that different from the previous games. There is a new lockpicking minigame though, which is a nice new touch, but isn't really that big of a deal. All in all, nothing really new to report here, but if it ain't broke, no need to reinvent the wheel. But let's be honest here, playing Uncharted and expecting cutting-edge gameplay is like ordering quality pizza from a Domino's. Just ain't gonna happen.
Don't worry.
What we're really looking for here is the story and characters, and this is the area that The Lost Legacy really succeeds at.
So, Nadine Ross.
Don't talk to me.
The story itself won't be ranked up alongside The Last of Us anytime soon, but it is one of Naughty Dog's more solid Uncharted efforts.
Why are you so keen to get Shoreline back?
Since it is an expansion pack and all, The Lost Legacy follows a very streamlined version of the usual Uncharted story template. Hunt the MacGuffin, go through hell looking for the MacGuffin, beating a pretty forgettable bad guy, and finding the MacGuffin. But it all mostly works.
Just hear me out for a second.
Since 1 year is far from enough time to really craft a big, sprawling Uncharted narrative, The Lost Legacy story is actually quite tight and focused with very little in the way of extra fat. To make up for this though, Naughty Dog have decided to put all their eggs into the character development basket, and this proved to be the best decision ever made for the game.
Drop everything.
Seeing as how Nathan Drake was put into retirement last year, someone else was needed to fill in the role of shit-talking yet lovable main character, and Naughty Dog struck gold when it decided to bring back Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross.
Hey! Nadine Ross!
This works well for a number of reasons. Chloe Fraser is essentially a darker version of Nathan Drake anyway, so this makes her a perfect fit for a game like this. As for Nadine Ross, well, she was kind of ripped off in A Thief's End because she was kind of portrayed as nothing more than just a bad guy. So bringing her back was a great way to kind of flesh out her character a bit more. Not to mention it gives Chloe someone to play off with. Throw in a bit of Sam Drake in there and what you end up with is pure entertainment.
Go ahead. You first.
Much obliged.
Wow.
Whereas there was almost always a smartass versus smartass dynamic whenever Nathan Drake was paired with someone, Chloe and Nadine are the complete opposites to each other.
Or that works.
And this clash of personalities works better than anything else previously seen in Uncharted. It's just fascinating to see how these two gradually earn each other's respect over the game's 10 or so hour duration.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's also just entertaining as hell to watch the two of them give each other shit.
Oh my god!
It's all muscle.
That's what they all say.
But what I really like is how The Lost Legacy tries to forge a personal connection between the protagonist, the setting, and the MacGuffin that's being hunted. Chloe's Indian background and her knowledge ties into the game's Indian setting, as well as why she cares about the country so much. Not to mention how the treasure that's being hunted is quite intricately linked to her character arc. Compared to Nathan Drake's usual motivation of finding shit just for the sake of it, The Lost Legacy gets extra points for this. On the surface, The Lost Legacy works well on a visual, story, and character level. But Uncharted has always had an issue in balancing the happy-go-lucky attitude of Nathan Drake with the fact that he's a genocidal maniac who kills hundreds of faceless mooks. However, Naughty Dog manages to unintentionally address this somewhat in The Lost Legacy with Chloe and Nadine. I think it has something to do with the characters. It's a bit tough to reconcile the fact that Nathan Drake is a happy-go-lucky guy who is able to kill hundreds of people with the flip of a coin. But for Nadine and Chloe, it's a bit easier to swallow. It's been previously established that Chloe is pretty flexible with human lives, if it meant it's in her best interests. As for Nadine, well, she is a goddamn mercenary, so she gets paid to kill people.
Catch. Gun! Nice shot.
Thanks.
I'm probably overthinking this, especially for an Uncharted game, which, at the end of the day, only one big question needs to be asked. Is it fun to play? And the answer is, yes. Yes it is. Though it is probably unlikely, there are hints that this could be the last Uncharted game from Naughty Dog. But I think that The Lost Legacy shows that you don't need Nathan Drake to have a great Uncharted adventure. In fact, there were many moments where his absence actually made everything feel even better. If this is indeed the last game in the Uncharted series, then it is certainly going out on a high with The Lost Legacy.
Worth it?
Impressive.